Hello, welcome to the Midnight Bible Study. Were the apostles Catholics? That's the topic of today's report. And this is the searcher, and we're going to cover it today because some famous pastors have tried to revise history, which is shocking to think that someone in a position of trust would try to do something like that. So let's take a look at. I want to look at it sort of in reverse because the question is, were the apostles Catholic? So I'm going to reverse it by looking at it through the lens of the popes. Who was the first pope? Well, that just happens to be one of the apostles. That would be the apostle Peter. It's right in the Bible where Jesus appoints Peter as the head of the church, right in the Gospels. Now, how is it possible that all these Protestant pastors overlook that? It's so prominent. It's right there in the red letter Bible. It's right there in red, and it's as plain as day. He also says, look, whatever sins you forgive are forgiven. Whatever sins you don't forgive are not forgiven. So he sets up the church with confession. How does that get overlooked by thousands and thousands of pastors? Week after week after week for year after year. It's kind of a mystery. It's kind of a mystery. How can you explain that other than the fact that job security would suggest overlooking that? So, all right. Were the apostles Catholic? So, okay, as I said, we know the first pope was the Apostle Peter. He was appointed by Jesus. So right there, what is the one church that even the gates of hell will not prevail against it? That would be the church that Peter, the first pope, was in charge of. The one and only Catholic Church. So all right, well, let's go ahead then and look at Saint Linus. Saint Linus in the first century, 67 to 76. He was a disciple of Peter, now this is a pope. Saint Linus was the second pope, and he was a disciple of Peter, the first pope. Now, who was this Saint Linus? Well, this is the one who ordered women to cover their heads in church with the veils, which evidently this was normal for Catholic women to do this up until maybe the 60s. This is just something I heard. I haven't researched this today, but I do know that it faded away for a long time, but it's coming back. I don't really know why it's coming back, but you see young women in Catholic churches all the time now with wearing the veils. And this actually began in the first century with Saint Linus. He's the one who started that. So, okay. Were the apostles Catholics? Let's take a look at another one of the popes to see if we can make a connection. Let's look at Saint Anacletus, who was the third pope. He was considered the fifth pope. But he was also a disciple of Saint Peter. Again, if he's a disciple of Saint Peter, who was the first pope of the Catholic Church, and we're saying we're the apostles Catholics, well, these Catholic popes are disciples of Saint Peter, so clearly they seem to be of the same religion, which was the Catholic Church. They're both sort of part of the same church, which is why Saint Anacletus was a disciple of Peter, and he was also they were both popes, as it turns out. Who was this Saint Anacletus the Pope? Well, in the year 80, just to give you a sense of what was going on during this time, in the Flavian amphitheater by Emperor Titus, Emperor Titus was the one who tried to exterminate the Jews, a popular pastime among many Jew-obsessed civilizations, or kings, I should say. Anyway, this was a time when in the Flavian amphitheater, impressive ceremonies, and there were games lasting hundreds of days, costing the lives of thousands of gladiators. So that's how far back these popes go. The very beginning. Because the reason I point that out is because I had someone recently try to convince me that there were no popes before the 5th century. I don't know where that even came from. But here we have one in the 1st century. Well, heck, we have Peter, who was right there with Jesus. Okay, well, anyway, one more example is St. Clement. Now, St. Clement was a disciple of St. Paul. So again, he was a disciple because they were part of the same church, which was the Catholic Church. And St. Clement was another pope. So, and St. Clement was nominated bishop by St. Peter. So you can see the connection, the historical connection. Now, who was this St. Clement? Well, there's a funny story about St. Clement. He was discipling a young woman, and he was converting a young woman named Theodora to join the church. And this is it's in the 1st century. He convinced her to make a vow of chastity. The only problem is she was married. And but he convinced her to make a vow of chastity. And this aroused the ire of her husband. He became outraged when he found out that St. Clement had convinced his wife to adopt a life of chastity. St. Clement was celebrating Mass, he was down in the catacombs, where the Catholics used to go down the catacombs and hold ceremonies, because the Romans were persecuting them, throwing to lions and doing terrible things to them. So they'd have these private ceremonies, or these secret masses down in the catacombs, where all the dead saints are under Rome. Anyway, so while St. Clement was celebrating Mass down there, furious, Synesius, who was Theodora's husband, ordered his soldiers to arrest the Pope. So they go down there, however, it seems God did not want this to happen. He did not want St. Clement arrested. And he blinded Synesius and his thugs. He blinded them. And as a result, their mission failed. Theodora took her husband home, where he eventually recovered his sight. So, well, anyway, there you go. You can see that were the apostles Catholics? Well, they were mentoring all the popes. So clearly they were in the same church. So yes, that's the history right there. God bless you. Good night from the Midnight Bible Study.